Hi, I'm Dina, and welcome to the channel 3Dina Animation Stories. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to support us.
Sometimes in life, we realize that all our knowledge isn't enough. This king came to that very realization, that the truth he sought wasn't hidden in palaces, but in the silence of a forest and in the wisdom of a humble hermit. Once there was a king who thought to himself, "If I could always know the right time to begin every action, if I could tell who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid, and if I could always know what the most important thing to do was, I would never fail in anything I undertook." So he proclaimed throughout his kingdom that he would give a great reward to anyone who could teach him the right answers to these three questions. What is the right time for every action? Who are the most important people? What is the most important thing to do? Many learned men came to the king, but all gave different answers. Some said that to know the proper time for every action, one must prepare a strict schedule of days, months, and years, and follow it carefully. Others said it was impossible to decide beforehand, for no one can foresee the future. One must simply remain attentive to what is happening and do what seems most necessary at the moment. Some advised the king to rely on wise counselors to tell him the best time for everything. Others said that since certain things require immediate decision, the only ones who could truly know the proper time were magicians, for they alone could foresee what would happen. The answers to the other questions were just as varied. Some said the king needed priests, others said warriors, and some said physicians and scholars were the most useful people. And to the third question, some said the most important thing in life was science, others said skill in battle, and others said worship and prayer. The king was not satisfied with any of these answers. He decided to seek the advice of a hermit known for his wisdom, who lived in a forest and never left his home. The king dressed simply, left his guards behind, and went alone on foot to the hermit's hut. When he arrived, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. The hermit was frail and thin, and each time he struck the soil with his spade, he stopped to rest and catch his breath. The king approached and said, "O wise man, I have come to ask you to answer 3 questions. How can I know the right time for every action? Who are the people I most need and should listen to? And what is the most important thing for me to do?" The hermit listened, but said nothing. He spat on his hands and kept digging. The king said, "You are tired. Let me take the spade and work for you." The hermit thanked him and gave him the spade. The king dug one bed, then another. When he stopped to ask again, the hermit still gave no answer. "Rest now," said the hermit. "Let me take the spade." But the king refused and kept digging until the sun began to set behind the trees. Finally, the king said, "I came here for answers, wise man. If you have nothing to say, I will return home." At that moment, the hermit said, "Look, someone is running toward us." The king turned and saw a bearded man running out of the woods, pressing his hands to his stomach, from which blood was flowing. He reached the king, staggered and fell to the ground, fainting. The king and the hermit opened his clothing and found a large wound in his abdomen. The king washed it as best he could and bandaged it with his handkerchief and a towel the hermit brought. But the blood kept flowing. Again and again, the king replaced the bandages until the bleeding stopped. The wounded man sighed deeply and closed his eyes. The king brought fresh water and gave him a drink. By now the sun had set, and the air had grown cool. Together, the king and the hermit carried the man into the hut and laid him on the bed. The king, exhausted from his journey and the work, sat down at the bedside and soon fell asleep. He slept through the short summer night. When he awoke in the morning, for a moment he could not remember where he was. Then he saw the wounded man gazing at him intently. "Forgive me," the man said weakly. "I do not know you," said the king. "There is nothing to forgive." The man replied, "But I know you. I am your enemy. You executed my brother and took my property. I knew you had gone alone to see the hermit, and I planned to kill you on your way back. But when you did not return, I left my hiding place and met your guards, who wounded me. Had you not treated my wound, I would have died. I wished to kill you, but you have saved my life. If I live, I will serve you faithfully as long as I live, and my sons shall do the same. Forgive me, my lord." The king was overjoyed to have made peace so easily with an enemy. He not only forgave the man, but promised to return his property and send his own physician to care for him. The king then went out in search of the hermit. He found him outside, kneeling and sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king said, "For the last time, I beg you to answer my questions, wise man." The hermit looked up and said, "You have already been answered." "How is that?" asked the king. The hermit replied, "If yesterday you had not pitied my weakness and helped me dig the ground, that man would have attacked you on your way back, and you would have regretted not staying with me. Therefore, the most important time was when you were digging. I was the most important man, and the most important thing was the kindness you showed me. Later, when the wounded man came, the most important time was when you tended his wounds. He was the most important man, and what you did for him was the most important work. Remember this, there is only one time that is truly important now, because it is the only time we have any power. The most important person is the one you are with at this moment, and the most important thing to do is to do good for that person. For that alone is the purpose of life.